NTA International News.
President Buhari poised to maintain transparency and accountability in the management of critical sectors of the economy. Former head of state champions fight against viral hepatitis. Plus, goal to get HIV treatment to 15 million by the end of 2015 achieved, says United Nations AIDS Agency. Good evening and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Olajide Bello. President Muhammadu Buhari has tasked the Federal Ministry of Information to galvanize robust public enlightenment drive beyond the nation's borders towards improving the image of the country. The President, while receiving a briefing from officials of the Federal Ministry of Information, also said decisive steps must be taken to ensure that intellectual property owners reap maximally from their creative works. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
The briefing by the Federal Ministry of Information centered mainly on its major activities of publicizing government programs and getting feedback from Nigerians through which policy decisions are influenced. To this end, the critical roles of the ministry's 9 parastatals, including NTA, FRCN, Voice of Nigeria, and the Federal Information Centers, as well as their operational challenges, were discussed.
The concern of Mr. President on the work we're doing, especially the publicity aspect. He wants us to intensify publicity because he wants every Nigerian to know about the policies and programs of government. He also raised concern about piracy and Nollywood, and he has also instructed us that we must work much harder to make sure that the producers of Nollywood films get what is due to them and that we reduce piracy to the barest minimum.
The President, she said, was also receptive to the idea of reopening the Federal Information Centers abroad as part of efforts to enhance the image of the country. On Radio Biafra and its security implications, the Permanent Secretary disclosed that steps have been taken by the federal government to deal with the situation.
Right now, the signals from Radio Biafra have been jammed, and the NBC is also working with the security operatives to get those that are behind that radio, because it's an illegal radio, it's not licensed by anybody.
President Buhari was also briefed by officials of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs on the ministry's mission, vision, and challenges of execution, part of which is tackling militancy and youth restiveness for the desired peace and normalcy in the region that is critical to the nation's economy.
Since August 2014, the ministry has not received any capital overhead up to today. So a lot of our projects are being stalled, and we don't want abandonment of projects. So as a result of that, we ask that funding can be sourced for the ministry's projects. That's one of the first challenges. And we also brief the Excellency on the progress of the East-West Road, which is 88.4% completed. In the housing units, that is, we have about 250 of these completed out of 400. And quite a number of projects that are waiting to be kick-started again as a result of lack of funds. Assurances will get like every other person that it will be looked into.
As part of its empowerment initiative, the Permanent Secretary said the ministry has trained over 4,000 youth in agriculture, ICT, and maritime activities. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Sequel to the problems associated with the implementation and management of petroleum products subsidy with the country over the years, President Muhammadu Buhari says the administration will handle the issue with utmost care. At a meeting with officials of the Petroleum Resources Ministry, NNPC, and other agencies in the industry, the President maintains that the days of transparency and accountability in the management of the critical sector of the economy will be brought back. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu again reports.
The President, who was briefed on the activities of the petroleum industry, said his administration received various submissions on the need to remove subsidies on petroleum products. He said the federal government will will review all the proposals with a view to taking appropriate action. The President noted that tampering with the price of petroleum products has the effect of triggering high cost of transportation, food and rent, which will seriously affect the less privileged. To him, insecurity, sabotage, vandalism, corruption and mismanagement are the most serious problems of the nation's oil sector and not necessarily subsidies. The problems, President Buhari said, will be decisively dealt with in the interest of the country. He used the opportunity to direct the NNPC to review all existing agreements for the swapping of crude oil for refined products with a view to injecting more honesty and transparency into the process to reduce costs. The NNPC management has also been asked to do more towards improving the supply of cooking gas in Nigeria. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Nigeria is to honor all international trade agreements that will directly affect the living conditions of our citizens. President Muhammadu Buhari said this at an audience with the outgoing ambassador of Turkey to Nigeria, Mr. Mustafa Polat. He said under his leadership, the federal government will give special attention to the implementation of such agreements, especially the provision of infrastructure, good education and job opportunities. The President applauded the effort of the ambassadors with expanding areas of bilateral cooperation between Nigeria and Turkey, thereby leading to the growth of trade relations among the two countries. He also praised the positive impact the ambassador has made on education in Nigeria as reflected in the increased number of Turkish schools and universities in the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that during the 2.5-year stay in Abuja, Ambassador Poulet focused on ensuring better cultural, educational and trade relations between his country and Nigeria. Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has reconfirmed the recall of non-career ambassadors, extraordinary and plenipotentiary of the Federal Republic on tour of duty abroad. A statement from the ministry said this is in line with routine movements in the diplomatic service. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has urged global leaders, experts and the international community to pay attention to the plight of the poor across the world, arguing that the promotion of social inclusion is central to issues of development. Speaking at the ongoing Third United Nations Conference on Financing for Development in Addis Ababa, the Vice President also seeks global action and repatriation of illicit funds and calls for global fund and education. Correspondent Jide Onipade reports. Civil societies and other interest groups have been asked to form a synergy and consolidate on the recent democratic gains in Nigeria, just as government must also ensure that electoral offenders are prosecuted and anti-graft agencies strengthened. This was the focus of a panel of discussion on democracy and governance in Nigeria, the road ahead, organized by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C. Adeyemi Omojola Fatoba has the report.
The Buhari works to build on the success of the 2015 general elections. Political watchers say governments like never before must be monitored adequately to ensure that leaders deliver on electoral promises. On security and socio-economic development, Dr. Fatima Akili of the Office of the National Security Advisor and founder of Youngsters Development Initiative, Kingsley Banwell, says bridging the divide deepened by the election period in achieving Nigerians' priorities require all stakeholders to join hands with government with genuine commitment by putting the country first.
Let them go beyond organizational need into working indeed as civil societies for the people.
From Washington, D.C., Adeyemi Omojola Fatoba, NTA News.
Some of the stories we had earlier brought to you, and we could not roll it, would come in our subsequent bulletin, but let's forge ahead. high-level interagency collaboration in crisis management and peace building for security agencies, humanitarian workers, civil society organizations, as well as the media is underway in Abuja. Anthony Forson reports that the forum is to engage ideas in combating the security challenges facing the country. The report.
Auspices of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, it is taking a look at changing institutional cultures that inhibit prompt goal attainment and inject new perspectives by strengthening the capacity of relevant stakeholders on the need to ensure adequate security of people and property through effective coordinated security and robust multi-agency drive. We are all coming together, to forget our past, to forget our differences and build a strong relationship. Representatives of service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, National Orientation Agency, National Emergency Management Agency, and other security organs all spoke from their perspectives, which chairman at the occasion summed this way.
Before now, agencies thought they could do things alone, but the global trend is that the more people, agencies work together, the easier it is for them to deal with whatever problem they are trying to solve. And it makes, it creates an opportunity for them to, bring resources together so that, it will be easier to deal with the problem.
In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
International community and governments at all levels have been urged to redouble their efforts in prioritizing the health, rights and preserve the dignity of vulnerable women and children in the face of insurgency. This was the choice of a lecture organized by the National Population Commission in conjunction with United Nations Population Fund to commemorate this year's Population Day in Abuja. Fatima Ali reports.
United Nations statistics shows that over 50 million people were displaced in 2014 around the world. 12.5 million are internally displaced in sub-Saharan Africa, and Nigeria accounts for the highest number of 3.3 million. The theme for this year's Population Day, Vulnerable Population in Emergencies, was adopted to focus global attention on challenges faced by populations caught up with crisis occasioned by conflicts and disasters. The lecture therefore seeks to chart a course for policymakers to ameliorate the suffering faced by displaced persons.
A true measure of our success in this year's World Population Day exercise is how positively we as a nation, we as a people, impact on the lives of these helpless and unfortunate Nigerians.
And to ensure that governments comply with international law and bring perpetrators of sexual violence to justice. We have intervened in various settlements and camps by providing life-saving relief, restoration. National Population Day was inspired by public interest and established by the Council of United Nations Development Programme in July 1989 to commemorate approximately the date on which the world population reached 5 billion people. In Abuja, Fatima Ali, NTA.
Just as he did in the fight against worm in Nigeria, former head of state General Yakubu Gowon is again championing the fight against viral hepatitis. Apart from being named the ambassador for the fight against the disease, his center is collaborating with the Federal Ministry of Health to adequately sensitize Nigerians on prevention, treatment, management and rehabilitation of the disease. Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju has more. Sorry about the poor audio of that report. It's been rectified. It will still come in the course of this bulletin. This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. We earlier informed you that President Muhammadu Buhari has promised to ensure transparency and accountability in the management of the critical sectors of the economy. We also heard that former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, is championing the fight against viral hepatitis. Still to come. United Nations AIDS Agency says goal to get HIV treatment to 15 million people by the end of 2015 has been achieved. Details in a moment.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't take the risk.
Welcome back. And back to our earlier report on the president in Ethiopia. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has urged global leaders, experts, and the international community to pay attention to the plight of the poor across the world, arguing that the promotion of social inclusion is central to issues of development. Speaking at the third ongoing United Nations Conference on Financing for Development in Addis Ababa, the Vice President also seeks global action on repatriation of illicit funds and calls for global fund on education. Correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo throws a strong challenge to the global leaders gathered at the conference at the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa from around the world, including the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, and called on the global community to develop and implement unconventional social safety nets to address the scourge of poverty, hunger, disease, and misery.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, we are on the cusp of history. We have an opportunity to build a holistic, inclusive, and forward-looking architecture for financing sustainable development. We have an opportunity to forge on concrete, action-oriented deliverables and initiatives for mobilizing financial resources and ensuring their effective utilization to achieve sustainable development.
The Vice President says Nigeria, under the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, is committed to set appropriate spending targets on social services to address poverty, hunger, inequality, and unemployment, particularly among the youth.
Nigeria equally recognizes the critical importance of domestic financial resources for development. We are committed to expanding the fiscal space through enhancing revenue mobilization, improving tax policy and administration, plugging leakages, inefficiency, improving public financial management, and in particular fighting corruption.
The Vice President also addressed the menace of terrorism and insurgency at the conference and how they affect development. He asked the international community to develop a viable mechanism to deal with the scourge of terrorism as it addresses all aspects of human security for a truly sustainable development, while emphasizing the imperative for the international community to help Africa stop and track illicit financial flows. It calls for support to Africa in repatriating such stolen funds. On the role of education and the exchange of knowledge to support dissemination of technology for development, the Vice President calls for the establishment of a global fund for educational development on the same scale as the United Nations Global Fund to fight AIDS and other major diseases. Jide Onifade, NTA News.
The poor extending of the the country and the dwindling revenue resulting in the Central Bank of Nigeria implementing tough foreign exchange measures to stem the depleting foreign reserves and boost local production as well as create jobs was the focus of guest and Good Morning Nigeria today. Joy Uzo report.
Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to deny importers of certain goods and services access to foreign exchange at the official window. 41 items, including rice, cement, furniture, toothpicks, kitchen utensils, towels, textiles, soap and cosmetics, among others, are affected by this restriction. The CBN has stated that the new foreign exchange policy will stimulate the domestic production capacity of the items and above all ensure economic stability. Just and Good Morning Nigeria lauded the initiative, but with exceptions.
Why do people want to import it? If it's possible to manufacture those things here, of course you do it. But because of infrastructure challenges, because of issues around power, because of issues around infrastructure, it's a lot more expensive to produce those things here. And so importers or manufacturers want to quickly get it in and then go to the market with it. But better late than never. If we start now, perhaps we can really mitigate some of this negative impacts going forward in the future. It would have been nice if we were informed about it so that we can tidy up some small areas that actually affect our raw materials and manufacturing. So on the whole, I would say it's a right step in the right direction, but we need to do some little bit of tidying up so that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot while we are trying to do our best to develop the economy.
CBN representative on the program, while reacting to the issues raised, said the new policy will help conserve the nation's depleting foreign reserves, increase local production of the goods, and create the much-needed jobs.
With respect to the issue, of infrastructure, we first realize it, but shall we continue to wait until all these are there before we start doing what we have to do? It is cheaper to produce, it is cheaper to import and sell off and make their money, but trading and all this never grows the country. And we are aware of the fact that we have lost in terms of reserve our major source of energy, which is oil, which crashed from as high as 115 to as low as $35 per barrel. And of course, we need to know that it cannot be business as usual.
In Abuja, Joy Uzo, NTA News.
The federal government has declared Friday 17th and Monday 20th July 2015 public holidays to mark the Salah celebration. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Abubakar Mogaji, who made the declaration on behalf of the federal government, enjoined Muslims to imbibe the spiritual benefits of Ramadan, which include love, peace and sacrifice for the development of Nigeria. He also urged Nigerians to support the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari in his determination and sustained effort towards building a peaceful and united nation. And now to the foreign scene. Iran and 6 world powers reached deal on nuclear program as the United Nations Aid Agency meets goal of reaching 15 million HIV people in 2015. Details of these and more with Uche Nwizu.
World powers have reached a deal with Iran on limiting Iranian nuclear activity in return for the lifting of international economic sanctions. The deal, which Iran's foreign minister refers as historic, gives the UN nuclear inspectors expensive but not automatic access to sites within Iran. The negotiations between Iran and 6 world powers began in 2006. In another development, the United Nations Aid Agency says the goal to get HIV treatment to 15 million people by the end of 2015 has already been met, 9 months after the scheduled date. This follows years of global efforts and investment to get antiretroviral drugs to those in need, especially people in sub-Saharan Africa. The UNAIDS reports that the global response to HIV has averted 30 million new HIV infections and nearly 8 million AIDS-related deaths since the beginning. And Rwandan lawmakers have supported a motion to let President Paul Kagame run for a third term in office, paving the way for a referendum to change the constitution. Although Kagame has not directly declared his intention, but he has said he is
the persuasion to change the two term limits in the Constitution. And the United Nations says at least 162 civilians have been killed in Yemen over the past 10 days, bringing the civilian death toll in more than 3 months of violence to 1,600,000. Uche NTA News.
And now to sport. Super Falcons intensified training in Abuja ahead of Saturday's clash with Equatorial Guinea in the 2015 Olympic football qualifier. For these and more, here is Isayo Ogufui on our sport update.
Acting head coach of the Super Falcons of Nigeria, Chris Danjuma, says his girls have learned from the World Cup in Canada, which will help them focus on the perennial rivals Equatorial Guinea in the all-important Olympic qualifier this weekend in Abuja. Danjuma, who took the Falcons through their paces at the Abuja National Stadium on Tuesday, said his team is ready to fire on all cylinders on Saturday.
We know how important qualifying for the Olympic Games is and how much it means to Nigeria, having missed the last edition. So everybody is in high spirits and the goal is they must qualify for the Olympic Games.
Chairman of the Nigerian National League, Emeka Nyama's reason in support of the NFF board's talk with Sunday Elise for the Super Eagles job. Speaking in Abuja, Emeka Nyama said the decision of the Glass House to name Elise as the Super Eagles head coach was not a mistake. Rather, it is another call to service for the man who was among the squad which qualified Nigeria for our first ever FIFA World Cup finals in the United States in 1994.
What he may lack in practical aspect of having not coached a national team before, he will have in terms of capacity, intellect and ability.
Former world number 1 golfer Tiger Woods says, going by his recent constancy, which has made his game to be heading in the right direction, he stands a better chance of winning his 15th major at this week's Open. The American, who said he now spends less time playing golf and more time with his 2 children, has not won a major since the 2008 US Open. And in boxing, Britain's 4-time world super middleweight champion Carl Frost has retired from boxing. The 38-year-old boxer won 33 of his 35 fights with 24 victories by knockout. With sports news update, Isayo Ogufui, NTA News.
And a quick look at the weather prospects for Wednesday is next. And that's it on the news on NTA International. Thanks for being there. I am Olajide Bello. Good evening.
I just wanted to have it at the back of the mind that a woman without a good character can never get a stable marriage. And if you continue to disrespect me like this, you might end up being single for the rest of your life. God forbid. Amen, my daughter.
Okay, your $1 million job has finally arrived.
I talk this guy like genius.
Drama and more drama. This life family drama. A change of heart.
And if I can't attend this party, I will go to the night club.
You will not go to any nightclub. You will go home if you know what is good for you.
You never dress. You never ready. And look for real. For the PTA now, what did you do for school? I will never reach. Who's worried about that? Now, Dr. Who? Dress, I don't know for food.
Because if your husband is cheating on you, and it's happening so often, you need to avoid it.
You don't know what to do, sure. Office women.
Drama and more drama.
and the network service of the NTA.